Opposition protests rock Dominica while election observers visit the country ahead of Friday's polls. Colombians take to the streets for a new national strike. And the COP25 summit on climate change enters its third day. Hello and welcome to Telesur English. I am Stefania Bravo. This is from the South. Observers are currently in Dominica ahead of the country's December 6 polls. A three-member team from the Caribbean Community, or CARICOM, will meet with electoral officials, leaders of political parties, and other stakeholders. On election day, the mission will monitor the electoral process from the opening of the polls through the voting process, the closing of the polls, and the counting of the ballots. Members of the Regional Security System, RSS, are also visiting the island on a peacekeeping mission on the heels of fiery opposition protests calling for electoral reform. Meanwhile, the Organization of American States has sent a mission to the island. OAS officials met with the Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs, and the former Prime Minister of the Bahamas, Hubert Ingraham, signed the agreement of immunities and privileges with Dominica's ambassador to the OAS.
Election day in Dominica will be December 6th. They can try what they want, they can do what they want, they can jump high, they can jump low. There will be elections in Dominica on December 6th, ladies and gentlemen. And we are going out. We are going out on election day and we are voting the Dominica Labour Party back in office.
The U.S. State Department seems to be stepping up its interest in what it calls, quote, the promotion of democracy in the Caribbean as the election dispute unfolds in Dominica. It is sending the Undersecretary for Political Affairs, David Hale, to the Bahamas and Haiti this Thursday and Friday. The State Department says he will meet the Prime Minister of the Bahamas, Hubert Minnis, to discuss disaster relief after Hurricane Dorian. And in Haiti, he will discuss the current crisis with President Jovenel Moïse and the need for a functioning government to restore.
The fact is that Sudan remains.
Our correspondent Alejandro Kirk has the latest from Layou, close to the capital city of Rosa.
This is the town of.
Tell him go back to his country and show the world.
Well, we have some visitors here. Look at him. He's telling me to go back to my country, that I'm a fucking communist. This road was unblocked today by members of the Dominica Labour Party in negotiations with the police and the people of the United Workers' Party, who were actually they put all these old cars here to block the road in a move that was decided last night at a meeting in the town of Salisbury, in which they decided, the opposition, to block all roads in order to stop the elections to take place on Friday. So this is not the only block, but members of the Dominica Labour Party told us they are going to go everywhere and try and negotiate a settlement so that the roadblocks are stopped and the elections will take place. That's what they tell us, and it seems that it's not. This is a peaceful country. This violence does not look like something natural coming out of them. It's part, seemingly, of a plan to disrupt the elections.
Dominica is a peaceful country, but the election have them possessed like that.
Well,
Dominica is a peaceful country. Dominica is very peaceful. But you see them, the party against the government is them are doing all the problem now. Blocking the road.
This guy is very violent.
Yeah, them workers, is them are doing the violence.
And why are they doing
blocking the road? Because they see they don't want election to call. They want electoral reform. For election to come. They're blocking road every year. Workers are doing that. Them blue are doing that. Blocking road and doing them shit there. In
everywhere.
Dominica. Every year. But Dominica is a very peaceful country. Very peaceful. But you see that election there? You see that election that come there? First time I see that in my life. I'm 62 years since I live in. And first time I see that in election.
So why is this happening?
Because the opposition want to get in power, and it's seeing the government over.
So they don't want to win the elections, they want to get in power?
Yeah.
By force?
By force. It's just that. By force they want to get in power. United Workers' Party, blue, they want to get in power by force. Because they see Skerrit win the election already. We don't go to the poll yet, but they see that. So they want to make all the problem for the getting in power by force, but that won't work.
Okay, thank you.
All right, my brother.
Well, that's the situation in this small town of Leyu, very close to Roseau, and so there are expectations that something worse can happen, but it doesn't look like these people want violence.
Alejandro, we thank you so much for that report. Moving on, thousands of Colombians are marching to Bolivar Square after the main strike committee announced that talks with President Iván Duque have stalled. The protesters are rejecting the government's neoliberal proposals, including massive privatization, and demand an end to the killing of environmental leaders, social activists, and former FARC members. Demonstrators are also condemning a reform that is being debated in Congress to increase the retirement age and decrease salaries for young people.
We are part of this strike on December 4, and we call on all workers to support and show solidarity for the national strike, reject Duque's policies, and those lawmakers who want to approve laws against the people. We will have several marches in the city of Barranca Bermeja and join other human rights organizations and unions. We will stay here all day to protest.
Our correspondent in Bogotá, Adriana Sibori, has more.
Colombia mobilized on Wednesday. In the capital, people have come from different areas towards the center of the city. We can see students, workers, healthcare professionals, among others, marching here. These people are demanding a stop to a proposed austerity package by the government, which would, among other things, privatize pension funds, lower taxes for large companies, and implement labor reforms to establish different minimum wages, depending on the province. After 14 days of mobilizations, Colombians are asking that any reform consider the needs of workers. They want an end to privatization and that anti-corruption laws be created. Campesinos are also making their voices heard as they demand support for responsible farming, the renegotiation of the free trade deal, and better policies to protect the environment. But one of the most important demands is that the 2016 peace agreements be respected, as their implementation has stalled due to the government indifference. As a result, over 700 social leaders and former combatants have been killed since the agreements were signed. The people want an end to the killings, and they want to hold open and direct talks with the government. Until then, mobilizations will continue in hopes of seeing deep social reforms implemented in Colombia.
We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. Since Mauricio Macri took power at the end of 2015, Argentina's economy has shrunk by between 2% and 3% every year, except in 2017 when it saw a very slight recovery. The first challenge for the new president, Alberto Fernández, will be to reactivate the economy.
The end of the neoliberal cycle leaves the country in recession, and with incomes in free fall for workers, pensioners, and the most vulnerable sectors of society.
The main goal would be to put money into people's pockets so they can spend again. The 20% loss of purchasing power is outrageous. There is no other country with that. And it has obviously a huge impact on economic activity.
Some economists say that inflation in 2019 will be around 55%, the highest rate since 1991. The other challenge for the incoming administration will be controlling prices.
The first thing is to change the analysis that Macri's Cambiemos government had, which was fixated on the fiscal deficit. I would say the problem in Argentina has more to do with the lack of dollars. This needs intensive work. We need to de-dollarize the whole economy. That means not letting utility prices climb out of control because of the devaluation of the currency and stopping the continual increase in fuel prices.
Price increases combined with falling incomes led to a drop in consumption, which had a big effect on industry. Thousands of small and medium-sized companies went out of business, and unemployment is likely to be 12% at the end of the year.
Businesses cannot plan to expand production or take on more staff unless they believe they can sell more. That is the basic condition for growing the business.
Chosa also says that the problem of precarious employment needs to be addressed.
We have about 1/3 of the population in informal jobs. We have to break with this. Of the 1,250,000 jobs created in the last 4 years, 90% were informal jobs. So another challenge should be to formalize the labor market.
The incoming government's plan includes reducing interest and capital payments on the debt, which has increased exponentially during Macri's government.
Recounts have been carried out in 5 out of 14 electoral districts across Trinidad following the local government election on Monday. The Elections and Boundaries Commission confirmed that requests were made for recounts in Marbella West, Cocoyia, Valencia West, Mayaro, Guayare, Austinville, Tuna, Puna, and 5 of 13 polling stations in La Romaine. The ruling People's National Movement, or PNM, has been confirmed the winner in 4 out of 5 of the districts. The United National Congress won La Romaine with a difference of 457 votes. However, it is not yet clear if the result will remain the same. In Chile, social organizations are presenting a proposal to the Constituent Assembly that will create the country's new constitution. The plan was drafted at the Summit of the People that is taking place in Santiago, parallel to the COP25 UN Climate Summit. The agreement to form a Constituent Assembly came after weeks of anti-government protests. The country's current constitution was passed in 1980 during the military dictatorship of Augusto Pinochet. And workers' unions have met to discuss new protests against the government's economic and social model. Organizations in demanding swift action against climate change with a large protest scheduled for this Friday. Several meetings and debates are taking place until December 7th as part of the Summit of the Peoples. Some countries never tire of trying to interfere in Venezuela. Now they are using the long-forgotten Rio Treaty for reciprocal military assistance, but the Venezuelan people are having nothing of it.
The people once again filled the streets of Caracas to reassert Venezuela's sovereignty, while a group of foreign ministers met in Bogotá to further their plans to intervene in Venezuela. This time, they used the Rio Treaty of Reciprocal Assistance, but these people are resisting with music and conviction.
Let them come to Venezuela and see all these faces full of emotion, joy, humility, and honesty. This is Venezuela. It's not war, it's peace. We want peace because we are love, affection, and determination. Nobody can intervene in Venezuela because we are standing firm. If they want to come and give us a hug, like we do with our brother countries.
The Rio Treaty was signed in 1948. It aims to give help to countries that are attacked by others. Paradoxically, it is now being used to attack Venezuela again. And again, they are failing. Because Venezuela withdrew from the treaty in 2012 under Hugo Chavez, and its decisions on Venezuela are null and void. It also has no effect. Because Venezuela has withdrawn from the OAS, the Venezuelan people, united with the military, no longer accept submission to the interests of the North.
We are marching to say, out with Trump, and to defend our Venezuela. We have to defend our country, which is the best thing we have.
One opposition member of the National Assembly proposed that Venezuela rejoin the Rio Treaty, another empty gesture, because the Assembly is still in breach of the Constitution, and its decisions have validity only for the media. And if the Assembly does overcome its breach of the Constitution, it will have to send such proposals to President Nicolás Maduro for his approval.
They should look after their own countries. All countries should be free and independent, and respect each other's sovereignty. We just ask for respect. We don't interfere with anyone, and they shouldn't interfere with us.
At its final destination, the march was greeted by participants in the International Communication Congress, where journalists and others from over 40 countries are meeting to defend sovereignty and self-determination for all the peoples of the world.
The people are mobilizing today to reject the attempts by a group of countries who think they are the gendarmes of this continent and want to impose their views on Venezuela. Venezuela rejects the use of outdated, redundant institutions like the Rio Treaty. They are only using this because they failed at the OES. The Lima Group has failed, and even the direct pressure of the United States against the people of Venezuela has failed.
Chile and Colombia, in the middle of popular uprising against their governments, are two of the countries trying to use the Rio Treaty to intervene in Venezuela. Maybe it is a smoke screen to conceal their problems at home.
We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. The COP25 UN Climate Change Summit continues in Madrid, Spain. Our correspondent in Madrid, Adriana Cardoso, has the latest.
Wednesday marks the third day of the UN Climate Summit being held here in Madrid. On this day, a report was presented from the Global Carbon Project Association saying that 2019 will be a record year in CO2 emissions to the atmosphere. According to the report, CO2 emissions increased by 0.6 in 2019. And in light of economic forecasts from different countries, the growth of the emissions will continue to be between 1 and 1.5 over the next years. This data concerns many since it directly threatens the Paris Agreement, through which different countries committed themselves to reduce the rise of global temperatures. But in order for this to occur, CO2 emissions need to be drastically cut. In other news, we know that the climate change activist Greta Thunberg reached Lisbon on Tuesday. She says she will be at the demonstration organized by various organizations, activists and environmental movements in Madrid on Friday. This demonstration is part of a number of events that make up the Counter Climate Summit, which aims to maintain focus on ways to fight climate change in the Global South and also criticize some of the action of this summit.
And now let's go back to our correspondent Alejandro Kirk, who joins us live from Dominica. Alejandro, you were outside the capital this morning at La U, where opposition supporters set up more roadblocks, and a group from the governing Labour Party arrived to clear the roads. Can you please tell us what happened?
Well, what happened is seemingly there was a meeting last night at this town of Salisbury where the opposition decided to block roads all over the country today in order to prevent the elections from taking place on Friday. This is because they failed in motion an injunction to stop the elections on a legal basis at the Dominica's High Court, and now probably being debated at the Appeals Court in St. Lucia, from where we have no news. Nobody has news actually, because I've been asking around about what happened there. So legal ways failed. They are trying this other way, as announced by the opposition leader Lennox Linton on Monday. So what happened there is that a group of members of the Labour Party went over to clear the rubbish and the red cars that they had put on the way to block the road. And after few exchanges, in some insults, they never got into a real violence. With the help of police, they negotiated a settlement, and the road was finally cleared peacefully, with the usual exchange of accusations between the supporters of the opposition, the blues, the way they call them here, and the reds, who are the supporters of the Labour government actually ruling the country. So it didn't go further than that. But we hear that in Marigot and other places, blockades are bigger than this, and the situation continues to be sort of tense, although you can't feel that tenseness right here in Roseau. This is a peaceful country. It's a small country. Groups, when they face each other, are composed by at most 50 people. This is not real crowds. The danger of becoming violent or even armed, so far it does not look to be feasible. But you never know when social processes start, you don't know where it ends.
Alejandro, after the Prime Minister spoke on Monday night, it seemed there would be no more public campaign events. Is that the case, or is the campaign continuing?
Well, I would say that these roadblocks are part of the campaign. Campaign may be, as we have been told, to create fear among voters, especially Labour voters, not to go to the polls and make them fail. That's another way of preventing the electoral process to go on peacefully. For what respect to rallies, there are no more rallies. At least no rallies from by the ruling Labour Party. That's what the Prime Minister announced. He did not ban rallies. What he said is that the Labour Party would stop rallying in order to protect citizens from this spiral of violence announced by the opposition. But really, the campaign continues by way of officials visiting voters, the Labour Party and the Workers' United Party calling its voters to go to the polls. So the election continues. What there isn't we haven't seen is rallies, except this, like I said, these roadblocks, which are, in my view, part of our campaign to promote fear.
Alejandro, we thank you so much for your time, and we'll try to get back to you throughout the day. That was Alejandro Kirk from Dominica. And with that, we've come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And don't forget to follow us on social media. We are on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. For Telesur English, I am Estefania Bravo. Until next time.